of past memories I have worked very hard to bury and forget about after arriving in Australia. Let me start by reiterating a statement that was said by one of the most vile characters in history had ever known, and whose actions have left a wound so deep the world is still trying to recover from until the very day. Adolf Hitler. This statement describes what we are going through today almost to the letter. Hitler said, "The best way to take control over people and control them utterly is to take a little of their freedom at a time, to erode rights by 1,000 tiny and almost imperceptible reductions. In this way, the people will not see those rights and freedoms being removed until past the point at which these changes cannot be reversed." As a Christian in the Middle East, I have experienced the true meaning of this statement from the day I had become aware of my surroundings. My account is not dissimilar to thousands of other Coptic Christians or children that were a part of a minority group who had grown up in Sudan or any other Middle Eastern country, with the majority being Muslims. We are discriminated against at school, at work, and every aspect of life. I was called derogatory names on a daily basis. I was called an infidel. I was called unclean, as decided by Islamic religion and Sharia law. At school as a Christian, we were not allowed to do our religious studies because the school wouldn't have a teacher that teaches Christian religion on staff, nor were we allowed a classroom for our religious studies. We were forced to study the Quran and memorize parts of it for the Arabic language subject, which if you failed, you would have to repeat the whole school year. We were not allowed to go anywhere near the Muslim students during their ablution because we were unclean, and that would void their washing before prayer. We were asked to stay in a particular area in the school. The treatment was not any different when playing at the playground or in the neighborhood. What is hard in reflecting on this after so many years is the fact that we never thought of all of this as being wrong, unfair or discriminatory. We just didn't know better. And even if we had, there was nothing much we could do about it without endangering our lives. In the mid-80s, when the President Mohammed Numeiri decided to apply Sharia law in Sudan, it was done without voting. Christians of the country were put on the spot and had no say in being governed by such brutal and barbaric law. Once the Sharia law was applied, it was almost a weekly spectacle to see flogging on the streets of people who were caught drunk. No one was spared. I personally have witnessed pregnant women being flogged with no mercy. The police station next to my grandparents' house was where they used to perform Dal Had, and that is to cut the hands and sometimes the hand and the opposite foot of the thieves who were caught stealing to feed their starving families. This was done in full view of all people who watched as it was a blockbuster. The sad thing is, it was only applied on the poor and on the weak, as the rich and powerful were above it. I remember most of the people that were at the receiving end of this brutality and were Southern Sudanese Christians who had already escaped the cruelty of ethnic and religious cleansing by their northern Muslim countrymen in civil war that was taking place in southern Sudan. As a minority, we were being pushed out in many ways than one, starting from shutting down businesses to forcing hijab in the workforce on women regardless of religious beliefs. My mother was given two options, either to wear the hijab or be made redundant. When she refused to wear it, she was laid off her job and lost everything she had worked for in over 35 years. I personally, after finishing year 12, was given two options, either to join the jihad army with the possibility of traveling to southern Sudan to fight the ethnic cleansing of my Christian brothers and sisters, or lose my opportunity for higher education. my choice was obvious. Coptic Christians in Sudan soon started their mass immigration to many countries around the world that have opened their arms to accept them and give them their new life. The people that managed to escape have made their destinations a home. They have assimilated, rebuilt themselves from scratch, and are giving back to the communities they are in to show their appreciation for the second chance they have been given. As someone who has been given that chance in this very wonderful country, Australia, it pains me to see the slippery slide it is going down by the Islamisation that is going on around us. I arrived here with my family 21 years ago. I tried to make people aware of Islam and its effects on Australian freedom and Australian way of life. No one listened. I was titled a radical and a bigot then, so the terms are not unfamiliar to me. Although it was hurtful to be titled as such, I knew it was due to the naivety and the lack of knowledge of the general population about this ideology and its intent to take over and control everywhere it goes. 21 years on, and we are all here fighting the very ideology I would have loved to have seen stopped from spreading then. Islam does not have any respect or tolerance for any other religion, not only Christians and Jews who were named as the descendants of apes and swine in Quran Surah Al-Ma'idah ayah 60, but also Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Yazidis, Baha'is haven't escaped the ruthlessness and brutality of this either. Intolerance is a part of Quran and a hadith written in black on white. They might come on public media and claim otherwise, and if they genuinely believe so, it is usually due to lack of education and knowledge of their own religion. However, mostly it is because of taqiyya, meaning pretense, which they are required to practice if they are outnumbered or overpowered until they have the upper hand, and then you will see the true nature of Islam. I am not here to teach about the ideology. Read and educate yourselves. Arm yourselves with knowledge. Don't sit and wait for people to tell you what Islam is about. The knowledge is widespread and easy to acquire. A simple freedom we take for granted, yet many out there would lose their lives for it in places such as Saudi Arabia, Iran and other Islamic countries. Be assured, if you let this ideology take over, the freedoms that you and I enjoy today will be history. Women will be wrapped in clothing from head to toe. There will be no more fair go for all, and the Australia that we know will cease to exist. You will be second-class citizens in your own country, like what happened to Christians in places like Iraq, Egypt, Morocco, Syria, etc. You are lucky. You will be given, if you are lucky, you will be given the option to pay jizya, which is Islamic tax, if you don't want to convert to Islam, or you might even be killed. I am not here to preach hatred against Muslims. Many of them may be genuinely good people, but I am here to make you aware that if we need to stop our country from being overtaken by Islam and Sharia law. Our young generation has unfortunately no appreciation for what they have in their hands. They are infected with political correctness while having their freedom taken away from them one small chunk at a time. They seem to be ignoring the fact that they are forced to pay religious food tax through halal certification. That they eat meat of animals slaughtered in the most horrendous way imaginable. That their ability to publicly celebrate Christian traditions are being slowly taken away because it is offensive to Muslims. that the teachings of Islam are slowly creeping into our schools and university curriculum, and the list goes on. I stand here before you, although not being a fourth, third, or even second generation Australian. Nevertheless, I am thankful to the forefathers who have given their lives up for this country, Australia. I love this country and I love living here and enjoy the freedom. And enjoy the freedom this country offers to everyone. I am not willing to give it away, full stop. We have to keep going and raise the awareness and make our voices heard to keep this country the way it was intended to be. Free for all!